What up? What up? What up? What up? I appreciate y'all checking me out. As always, listen, recently I had a conversation with one of my G's. I was talking about defense. Well, really, we was talking about the year Kawhi Leonard and the Toronto Raptors beat the Golden State Warriors, in which I said that, well, they still had Draymond and Steph Curry. My point being that Steph Curry, one of the best players in the league, especially at the time. And Draymond Green, what I said was Draymond Green was one of the best defenders of all time. Yeah, my G had all types of arguments. Well, not really arguments. He just didn't agree. He didn't agree. So we were supposed to come up with a list and have a live debate. Well, he couldn't come up with the list or didn't come up with the list. So now you got me and my list. So I give you the list and I'll tell you why I have the players where they are. So let's just get off into the list. All right. Now, when I show you this list, you'll see that Draymond did not make the list because this list is a top 10 list. All right. Now, let me open up this file and we'll get off into it. All right. Here we go. It's the list right here. All right. That's my list. That's my list. That's my list right there. Now, as you can see, I got 10 players there. Draymond Green is not one of them. Dwight Howard is not one of them. And a lot of people might say, well, hey, why aren't they? Well, let's talk about it. Obviously, Hakeem is number one on the list because they named the award after him just recently. So it's no longer the Defensive Player of the Year award. It's the Hakeem Olajuwon award, right? So right there, we got Hakeem Olajuwon. Right here at number 2, we got Ben Wallace because Ben Wallace was not just undersized. He was athletic. He was extremely undersized for the center position. And he was the defensive anchor for a championship team. Now, he won 4 Defensive Player of the Year awards. He got rebounding champs. He got block champs. All right. To me, an undersized player who can exceed certain, I don't even want to call them expectations because that's just not, I didn't expect Ben Wallace to have the type of career that he had. Right. Next up, we got Dennis Rodman. Now, Dennis Rodman was another guy who was undersized, but versatility, just like with Ben Wallace, played a factor. Not only that, Dennis Rodman was the defensive anchor for a Detroit Pistons team who back-to-back, and he was the defensive anchor for a Chicago Bulls team who three-peated. Man won 2 awards. He got a rebound champ. I mean, undersized. I got Dennis Rodman at number 3 on there. Maybe you might have an objection. Make your list and we can talk about it. Dikembe Mutombo. I got him right there at number 4. Dikembe was an elite rim protector, man. Clearly one of the best defensive players of all time. 4-time Hakeem Olajuwon Award winner. Unfortunately, I have him behind Dennis Rodman and Ben Wallace because he wasn't able to win a championship. As great of a defender as he was, a defensive anchor as he wasn't able to win the championship, and that actually played a pretty big factor in me determining this list. Now, when we go to number 5, yes, I have Tim Duncan as number 5. When you look at Tim Duncan's resume, he does not have any Defensive Player of the Year awards, right? He was He was the defensive anchor for at least, I'll say at least 3 of the championships that the San Antonio Spurs won. I mean, he was an elite defender. It's just the bottom line. We look at all NBAs, which to some people that might matter. I mean, might not matter. We're talking about a guy who played 19 years in the NBA and had 15 all defensives. That's absolutely insane to me. That's crazy. That's a 78%. That's a 78%. It was always a 78%. He made it 78% of the time. All right. 78% of the time throughout his career, he was all defensive. And there's nobody else even on this list who can say that. Right. So that's why I have Tim Duncan right there at number 5. Number 6, I got David Robinson, man. David Robinson was one of the best defensive players. He was a defensive anchor for a championship team. He's won the award. He's got block champs. I mean, David Robinson is maybe this is a little biased because David Robinson is to me one of the best centers and most underrated centers of all time. But I do have him right there at number 5 on the list. Now, Rudy Gobert, the Stifle Tower, right? 3-time Defensive Player of the Year award winner, block champs, rebound champs. When we talk about his all defensives, he's got more than Dwight Howard already. All right. He's got more than Dwight Howard already. And he's never won a championship, but nonetheless, we know what type of defensive anchor Rudy Gobert has been throughout his career. All right. Next on this list, I got Kevin Garnett. Why? Because Kevin Garnett was, for one, a defensive anchor for a championship team. Now, I know that Boston Celtics team was pretty strapped. Not only that, when you look at Kevin Garnett as a rebounder, I didn't know Kevin Garnett, by my standards, he's the all-time leader in rebounds. That's absolutely crazy to me. And it was rough to me to even take rebounds into consideration when I was making this list. But I had to, because it is essentially a part of keeping the ball away from other people, from the offense or from the other team, whatever. So I do got Kevin Garnett right there at number 8. Got to put KG there. I mean, one of the best defenders of all time, perennial all world defender. So I'm gonna put him there. I feel like maybe if he had a little more help during this time in Minnesota, Kevin Garnett would definitely be a champion, because he was, I mean, one of the best players in the league during his time in Minnesota, right? I mean, it was a point where he was arguably the best player in the league. Kawhi Leonard. Now, this one was kind of rough for me because even though Kawhi got 2 Defensive Player of the Years, he was a defensive anchor for at least 1 championship team. It's just really, it's not a lot of guards out there better than Kawhi Leonard on defense. I mean, I had to put him on this list, right? And then next up, we got Mike at number 10, falling right there at number 10 because it's Mike. I mean, steals champs. I mean, I don't even know how many all defensive teams this dude that made. Michael Jordan was, if we're talking about guards, you got to put him there. I mean, you just got to put Mike there. Now, another thing I took into consideration was kind of like your competition during that time. So, like, Mike was really, it was a tough one. It was a tough one putting Mike there, but, you know, his resume speaks for itself, man. Mike's resume speaks for itself. Now, I know a lot of people might feel like maybe Dwight Howard should be on this list. Listen, if you go look at how many, so he won 3 Defensive Player of the Years consecutively, right? Back to back, right? His span was so short So basically, it was like a 5-year window, and he dominated that 5-year window. But anything after that, Dwight Howard has been, even though he is, to me, an elite shot blocker, rim protector, very athletic, I had to take into consideration that his defensive span was so short. Like, why? Why was your defensive span so short? And a lot of people say, well, injuries. Nope, not if you go look. If you go look, he still had numbers on the offensive end and the rebounding department in order for you to say, well, Dwight is healthy enough to do these things. Why was he only an elite defender for 3 years to 3 to 5 years? I say that out of his 18-year career. So that's why I don't have Dwight Howard on this particular top 10 list. Do I have him a top 15 defender of all time? Absolutely. Right along with Draymond Green. Draymond Green is a guy who can guard 1 through 5, defensive anchor for not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 championship teams over there in Golden State. I mean, I'm sorry. Draymond Green is, as much as people might want to come down on Draymond, and I'll admit that I'm one of those people myself. I kind of gave Draymond a lot of shit. But when it comes to defense, defensive IQ, just being a defensive captain, a defensive leader, Draymond Green is absolutely right there. And it's not even an argument. So, yeah, if there's a top 15, Dwight and Draymond makes this list. Now, keep in mind, I did not date back anything faster than when I was born. I was born 89, and that's when my list started. That's when my list of players started. As a matter of fact, I don't even go back to I don't even go back that far, man. My shit start, depending on what kind of conversation we have, my shit might start at 85. Like, that's pretty much like the furthest back I'm willing to go with a basketball conversation, because the league was not as advanced as it was. I don't want to hear about the ABA. I don't want to hear about Wilt putting up 100 on come on, man. Let's just not do this. I don't want to talk about Bill Russell, because the majority of Wilt's points came against Bill Russell, right? In a league where everybody had to join team. I'm not talking about Kareem. I'm just not doing certain players. I'm not talking about. I'm just not going to discuss. I think it makes for more of an interesting conversation if we just leave. If your games were played in black and white, for sure, we ain't gonna talk about you. If I go back on YouTube and look, well, we ain't gonna talk about you. We're not even gonna discuss you. Especially when we talking about other greats at your position. All right. I just wanted to come though, drop my little 10 cents on y'all, get y'all my defensive list. And hey, man, if you got any objections, please feel free to let me know. Let's talk about it. Please make you a list yourself, and maybe you can convince me that my list is super duper wrong, because maybe it is to some people. But that's just me. I'll catch y'all next time. Peace.